Juliet Ferrars is 17 years old and already having the worst year of her life. The world is falling apart, no birds, no real food, and the government is just a bunch of guys in suits making everything worse. Also, if Juliet touches anyone, they die. Simple, brutal, end of story. Which makes making friends a little complicated. The people in charge, called the Reestablishment, because of course they gave themselves a creepy name, decide the safest thing to do is lock Juliet away like she's a human nuclear bomb. For almost a year, her only company is a notebook and her own spiraling thoughts. Then, one day, the guards throw a boy into her cell, a real, breathing human boy, and that's when everything starts to go downhill faster than you can say, bad decision. So, for most of her life, Juliet's been treated like a freak show. Her parents locked her up when she was a kid, the government tossed her into an asylum like old laundry, and by now she's basically forgotten what normal even looks like. But now, there's someone else in the room, a boy named Adam. He's familiar, too familiar. And for someone who hasn't spoken to another human in almost a year, that's unsettling. Turns out they actually went to school together back when life involved homework and cafeteria lunches instead of solitary confinement and electric fences. Adam's not scared of her. He's actually nice. Braver than most. Pretty soon, they're passing notes and trauma bonding like it's middle school all over again. For a girl who's been starved of human contact, it's almost too much. Then the government shows up. The Reestablishment, basically the world's worst rebranding exercise, drags Juliet out of her cell. They've been keeping tabs on her, and they've decided she's exactly what they need. A shiny new human weapon. Specifically, their golden boy Warner. Warner is young, powerful, extremely intense, and seems to think kidnapping is just another way to show he's into you. His plan is simple. Juliet will use her deadly powers to torture and control the rebels, and in exchange, he'll give her a fancy room, good food, and slightly fewer death threats. Romantic, right? But Warner isn't just creepy with a great jawline. He once forced Juliet to hurt a little kid just to prove a point. In Warner's world, team-building exercise means traumatize a teenager. Juliet, who still has a tiny thing called morals, says no thanks. She pretends to go along with it while secretly plotting her escape. Meanwhile, Adam is also here, working as a soldier for the Reestablishment. Or at least that's what Warner thinks. In reality, Adam's been low-key protecting Juliet from the beginning, sneaking her small kindnesses like her old notebook when everything else felt ripped away. When they finally get a moment alone, Adam drops 2 bombshells. 1, he's been watching over her forever. 2, he can touch her, like actual touching, without anyone bursting into flames or needing an ambulance. And for Juliet, who spent her whole life believing she's basically a human bug zapper, this is kind of a big deal. Together, they start planning their jailbreak. There's a lot of sneaking, a little bit of gunfire, and approximately 6,000 dramatic stares. They even grab Adam's little brother James, like easily the most chill 10-year-old living through a dystopia, and make a run for it. Of course, Warner doesn't take rejection well. He hunts him down, corners Juliet, and, surprise, tries to kiss her. Because apparently Warner's love language is hostage situation. Juliet is not here for it. She steals his gun, shoots him, and pieces out with Adam and James like the action hero she was always meant to be. The trio eventually stumbles into Omega Point, the underground rebel headquarters. Here, Juliet discovers she's not the only one with weird powers and social anxiety. She meets Castle, the rebel leader with a dream and a clipboard, and Kenji, who is basically holding the entire rebellion together through sheer sarcasm and stubbornness. At Omega Point, Juliet finally gets a specially made suit that lets her control her powers. So now she can shake someone's hand without accidentally sending them into an early grave. It's like Cinderella, but instead of glass slippers, it's reinforced Kevlar. For the first time ever, Juliet has a team, a family, maybe even a future. But, of course, things are never that simple. There's still a corrupt government to overthrow. There's still Warner bleeding out somewhere, but probably plotting a comeback like a soap opera villain. And there's still the small, annoying problem that surviving the apocalypse might end up being way harder than dying in it. New book, same mess. You made it to book 2. Unravel me. Juliet may have escaped the cell, but now she's stuck with a rebel army, unstable powers, and way too many emotions she didn't ask for. Well, life at Omega Point is not exactly what Juliet imagined. She thought she was signing up for a cool rebel army and a chance to finally make some friends. Instead, she's stuck in superpower boot camp, getting absolutely destroyed by 12-year-olds with laser eyes and spending most of her free time crying into her government-issued pillow. Castle, the rebel leader, keeps telling her she's special, gifted, a real-life superhero. Juliet's not buying it. It's hard to feel like a hero when your main talent is accidental manslaughter. Meanwhile, things with Adam, her literal forbidden love, are going about as well as you'd expect, which is to say, horribly. Turns out, Adam's got powers too. He can shield himself from other abilities, which is why he can touch Juliet without instantly curling up like a dead spider. The catch? The more comfortable Adam feels, the weaker his shield gets, which means that the more he loves her, the closer she gets to frying his internal organs like bacon. So naturally, Juliet is freaking out. She already felt like the human embodiment of bad luck. Now she's basically a love-powered death ray. And if that's not complicated enough, guess who she can't stop thinking about? That's right, Warner, the evil dictator's son, who she shot in the chest and left for dead, who is apparently still alive, still brooding, and still somehow hotter than necessary. Juliet does her best to move on. She even goes on her first real mission with Omega Point, sneaking into enemy territory with Kenji, who's basically the world's most sarcastic babysitter. Let's talk about Kenji for a second, because if this world had a functioning mental health system, he'd be running it. Instead, he's keeping the rebellion from falling apart with nothing but sarcasm, shoulder pats, and sheer emotional stamina. Kenji is the kind of guy who can go invisible, sneak past an army, and still find time to lecture you about processing your feelings. He's a therapist, a spy, and the designated driver of everyone's trauma. Juliet leans on him constantly, sometimes literally, and honestly, so do we. When she spirals, he grounds her. When things go sideways, which is often, he cracks a joke that somehow saves the mood in the moment. You want comic relief? He's got it. You want emotional depth? It's there, hiding just behind the sass. Basically, Kenji is the glue holding this emotionally unstable rebellion together. Someone give this man a raise and a nap. Everything's going mostly okay until Juliet spots Warner during a supply run. Not holding hostages, not setting fires, just feeding a stray dog, because nothing says deadly war criminal like handing out Scooby snacks. Juliet's brain short circuits a little, but Kenji drags her back before she can make any very bad life choices. Later, during a mission to rescue kidnapped friends, things go sideways fast. Supreme Commander Anderson, aka Warner's dear old dad, shows up. Warner shows up, guns are drawn, secrets spill, chaos erupts, a normal Tuesday. And somehow, in the middle of all that disaster, Omega Point's team manages to capture Warner and drag him back to base, which is how Juliet ends up getting the world's worst assignment. Hey, we thought you'd like to interrogate your kidnapper/walking existential crisis. Great. Turns out interrogating Warner is like trying to argue with a hot, angry philosophy major. He's got scars. He's got secrets. He's read Juliet's old diary and can quote it like he's rehearsing for the Sad Boy Olympics. And worst of all, he gets her. Not the fake, surface level her, the broken, lonely, terrified version she keeps hidden under all the sarcasm and bulletproof suits. Meanwhile, Adam is not handling any of this well. First, he finds out Warner can touch Juliet too. No screaming, no dying, no horrifying side effects. And he loses it. Cue the world's most awkward love triangle. Castle is busy dealing with bigger problems, though. Supreme Commander Anderson is planning to massacre entire civilian towns just for funsies. Because in dystopia, family issues mean state-sponsored war crimes. Juliet refuses to sit this one out. During a rescue mission gone wrong, She runs headfirst into Anderson himself. He's charming, he's psychotic, and he wastes zero time shooting Juliet in the chest. She thinks she's dying again. But, plot twist, Warner saves her. Yes, Warner, again. He uses twin healers to channel their powers through himself, because he's the only idiot brave enough to touch Juliet while she's half dead and half nuclear reactor. And after 2 books of crying, running, and feeling guilty about breathing, Juliet finally does the one thing she hasn't tried yet: let someone save her. Her story could have ended right there. But lucky for us, and for the entire rebellion, Warner refuses to let her go. And that, besties, brings us to book 3, Ignite Me. When Juliet wakes up in Warner's bed, no, not like that. Everything is different. She was shot in the chest, left for dead, and Warner, the former kidnapper, current romantic headache, is the only reason she's still alive. Juliet is lying there in his room, confused, sore, and very much not dead, which is a win, probably. The thing is, Warner could have let her die, but he didn't, and now he's acting weirdly respectful. He's still intense, still mysterious, still built like a walking emotional disaster, but instead of trying to manipulate her, he's offering her food, information, and space. Actual space. Emotional and physical, which for Warner is basically a love letter. Meanwhile, Juliet finds out Omega Point is gone. Gone as in blown up. As in no more Resistance HQ. Castle, missing. Kenji, alive, thankfully, and crashing on Warner's floor like the world's sassiest houseguest. With literally nowhere else to go, Juliet does the only logical thing. She decides to take down the reestablishment. All of it. By herself, if she has to. Warner's like, I've been saying this since book 1, and immediately signs up to help. So now Juliet, Kenji, and Warner, aka Team Chaos, are living in Warner's fancy bachelor bunker, trying to start a rebellion from scratch with 3 people, 0 money, and 1 bulletproof outfit. Juliet starts training harder than ever. She wants to control her powers, lead people, not cry every time someone raises their voice. She wants to be someone who can't be broken. And Warner, turns out, is a surprisingly great coach. He's patient, supportive, kind, which is deeply unsettling. He also opens up about his past, about his father, Supreme Commander Anderson, if you forgot, literal trash bag in human form, about how he learned to fake coldness so no one could hurt him. And slowly, Juliet realizes that Warner isn't the villain she thought he was. He's a survivor, a protector, a guy with way too many layers and, unfortunately, very kissable lips. Meanwhile, Adam, remember him, shows up again, and it goes not great. Juliet tries to be honest. She tells him things have changed, that she's not the same girl crying in a corner anymore. Adam doesn't take it well. He's angry, defensive, says some really not awesome things. Basically has the emotional maturity of a soggy napkin. Kenji, MVP as always, is the only one holding this fragile squad together. And through all of this, Juliet keeps growing. Stronger, louder, braver, the girl who couldn't touch anyone without killing them. She's now the one people choose to follow into battle. So she builds a new plan. Step 1, confront Anderson. Step 2, kill Anderson. Step 3, burn the entire corrupt system to the ground. Tiny checklist, big vibes. When they finally track Anderson down, it's not just a showdown, it's a full-blown revolution. Juliet walks into a government party like she owns the place, points a gun at Anderson, and finally says out loud what everyone's been thinking: you're done. Boom. Shot to the chest, no hesitation, just clean, rebel girl justice. Of course, chaos erupts. But by now, Juliet isn't afraid of chaos. She is the chaos. Warner fights beside her. Kenji's throwing punches and one-liners. And for the first time, people are following Juliet not because of fear, but basically because she's the only one with a real plan. The book ends with Juliet standing at the top of the government building she just overtook, heart pounding, clothes probably covered in blood, surrounded by a few stunned survivors and a whole lot of possibilities. She's not the girl in the cell anymore, not the freak, not the weapon. She's the one in charge now, but power doesn't fix broken trust. It doesn't erase secrets. And it definitely doesn't stop the people closest to you from becoming your biggest threats. She thought taking control was the end of the story, but it's just the beginning of the fallout.